Wait, what? I have to give a speech at this meeting? Ah, what should I say? How should I organize it? What should my main point be? How can I make sure people remember it? How do I begin? Oh no, I think I'm going to be sick. Has this ever happened to you? Even if you knew you had to give a speech, how many of you procrastinated to the point of needing to cancel because you didn't know how to begin? You will learn the tools to create a memorable speech that begins with an evocative question, has 1 to 3 points illustrated by a story, and ends with a simple, memorable action point. Also, you will learn that if you have more than 3 points, you can base your speech on an acronym. Since my speech today has 4 points, I will use the acronym FIRE to organize my speech. The F in FIRE is for Find Your Stories. How do you begin? Begin with the end in mind. What action point do you want people to remember? Your action point should be expressible in 10 words or fewer. Even better to say it in fewer than 5 words. Then work backwards. Try to find a clever or funny story from your life that illustrates your action point. Even better if your story is about a personal failure, because everyone relates to failure, especially if it's yours. Many of you may be thinking, I'm hopeless. Action point stories? Come on! What she's saying is way too advanced for the empty cavern that is my brain. Most of the time, I am like Pooh, a bear of very little brain. My mind is blank except for the awkward filler words that spill out at embarrassing moments, you know? Believe it or not, I understand. I was there when I began with Toastmasters. If you are like I was, start thinking about stories from your life that you tell your friends, coworkers, and children. I believe that each of us has 10 stories we tell throughout our lives. We may swap out a story or two, but most of us tell the same stories over and over. How do you find your stories, you ask? Take some time, a month or two, to listen to yourself talk with others and write those stories down. Or ask your friends and family what your stories are. Believe me, they know. When you're writing, you don't have to write down much, just enough to remind yourself of the story. Write your story in fragments in a document that you always have access to. Still lost? Meet with a friend or mentor. Help them help you explore your life to tease out the story gems inside of you. Often having someone else write down your musings is helpful. Brainstorming, that is, spitting random thoughts that your friend writes down, often unlocks what's inside. Now that you have found your stories, it's time to illustrate. Choose one of your stories to tell that illustrates a message with no more than 3 points. 3 points because that's really all us feeble humans can remember. But if you do have more than 3 points, Then choose a clever acronym, like FIRE. Does this seem too complicated? Maybe this helps. Review your stories and think of the circumstances when you tend to share that story. That will lead to your points and eventually to your action point. Once you've chosen a message to I, illustrate, move to R, to relate your message to your audience with a question, a statement, or a shocking fact that relates to your message. This phrase makes a good beginning to your speech to draw in your audience with something relatable to them, something that prompts them to say, I've known that feeling, or something that has piqued their curiosity. Finally, E is for end. End with an action phrase based on your message that relates to your opening remark. Ending with a phrase from the beginning of your speech is called bookending. As you might have noticed already, the order for using these 4 points in the FIRE acronym gets mixed up sometimes, and that's okay. When I gave my first icebreaker speech, the story I found was from high school. I remembered how I was so lost that I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Someone told me about a special aptitude test to identify my strengths. The results enabled me to choose a fulfilling career that used my strengths. I tell this story often when someone says they can't figure out what to do with their lives. This made me realize my speech opening, a question that most people can answer yes to. Have you ever felt lost? It also focused my message into an action point. If you feel directionless, take this aptitude test. 2, combat your procrastination based on the I don't know what to say in this speech blues. Use the acronym FIRE in any order that works for you. F is for find your stories. I is for illustrate, choosing one of your stories to tell that illustrates a message with no more than 3 points. But if you have more than 3 points, use a clever acronym. R is for relate, drawing your audience in with a question, statement, or shocking fact that relates to your message. And E is for end with an action based on that message.